For the past couple of years, Seiko has been really focused on reissuing some of its most iconic dive watches. Which is by no means a bad thing, because it gives us a chance to own some of their best designs with all the benefits of modern manufacturing techniques. The latest watch to be reissued, or reinterpreted as Seiko prefers to say, is their 6105-8000 Turtle. This was only the second dive watch that Seiko produced, and it had a fairly short production run, only being made from 1968 to 1970. The original model has naturally become pretty collectible, and with Seiko reissuing the 62 Mass and the Willard, the 6105 Turtle was the next logical choice. The new collection is officially called the Prospex Heritage Turtle 1968 Reinterpretation, and there are 3 different models to choose from. The white-dialed SPB313, the black and gilt SPB315, and the black and white SPB317. It's the latter model that I've got into review, and it was kindly loaned to me by Francis Gaye Jewellers. As always, I thoroughly recommend them as a UK-based authorised dealer, and they have a fantastic selection of brands to choose from. Regarding pricing, the SPB317 retails for £810 on a rubber strap, and the other models go for £990 on a steel bracelet. On paper, the 317 has all the features that are hallmarks of these higher-end Prospex divers. The watch has a 200 meter depth rating, a sapphire crystal, and the case is treated with Seiko's scratch-resistant DiaShield coating. It also goes without saying that the lume on the 317 is exceptionally bright. Inside the 317 beats Seiko's in-house caliber 6R35. This automatic movement has 24 joules, a beat rate of 21,600 beats per hour, and a 70-hour power reserve. Though these movement specs are pretty solid, the 6R35 is only rated to be accurate to between +25 to -15 seconds per day, which isn't what I'd expect from a watch at this price point. It's something that I really hope Seiko improves on in the near future, as I think it's the main thing that detracts from their watches at the moment. Not to mention that I'm getting sick of mentioning the same point each time I review a Seiko. The bezel insert is aluminium and uses the same design that Seiko has been using for decades. It's one of the features that helps to give the 317 that classic Seiko look, but of course the aluminium is nowhere near as durable as the steel inserts used on Seiko's 62 Mass reinterpretations. You might also have already noticed that predictably the bezel is misaligned. Again, it's not something that you expect in a watch that retails for over £800, and bezel alignment is the second major improvement I think Seiko need to make to their watches. The design of the 317 is very true to the 6105-8000 it's based on, with just a few minor tweaks to tie the watch into Seiko's other Prospex divers. In fact, the dial layout is almost identical to that used on the Willard reissue, with chunky polished batten markers on a matte black dial. It's not exactly an imaginative layout, but it provides the high contrast you expect on a professional dive watch. Meanwhile, the batten handset is also the same as that used on the Willard reissues, with a dual brushed and polished finish that creates some interesting light play. The shovel tip seconds hand is the same too, with a red lume spot that serves as the only splash of colour on the watch. Of course, the biggest talking point about the design of the 317 is actually its date window. Date windows can be quite divisive features, with some people finding them useful, and others disliking that they can ruin the symmetry of a watch. For anyone who falls into the latter camp, I wouldn't worry about the one on the 317, because it's actually barely noticeable. It's positioned at 4:30, and with its colour-matched date wheel, it's actually very unobtrusive. I think that its placement is Seiko's attempt to compromise between the two sides of the date or no date debate, whilst also allowing them to follow the latest ISO 6425 guidelines, which require dive watches to have lume plots at all hour markers. The combination of all these elements results in a watch that's best described as a no-frills dive watch. And I mean that in a good way, because it's got all the functionality that you want in a diver, with absolutely no excess design features. The simple black and white dial looks really crisp, with the hands and markers really popping out at you, and it's therefore exceptionally legible. Now, one of the best things about the 317 is just how well it wears on the wrist. This is partly due to its dimensions. The case is 41mm wide with a 46.9mm lug length and a thickness of 12.25mm. This makes the 317 Seiko's thinnest Prospex diver yet, and because of that the watch sits really unobtrusively on the wrist. The other reason it wears so well is because the crown is located at 4 o'clock, and as a result it can't dig into the back of your hand. This is far from an unusual design choice for Seiko, but on the 317 I really noticed just how much more comfortable it made the watch wear. The last thing to talk about when it comes to the comfort of the 317 is the rubber strap it comes on. The strap is well made with supple rubber, chunky steel hardware, and a subtle pattern printed onto it. It's certainly not anything special, but it's comfortable and exactly what I'd expect to see fitted to this watch. Plus, with 20mm drilled lugs, the 317 will suit a plethora of aftermarket straps if the stock one isn't your thing. As I said earlier, I think of the 317 as a no-frills diver. It's a watch that's not concerned with fancy finishing and over-the-top design elements. Everything is functional and to the point. And as this is a reissue of the 6105, the design is packed with Seiko DNA. All of which makes the 317 the quintessential Seiko dive watch in my opinion. It's hardly a revolutionary watch, but rather the 317 is a tasteful evolution of an iconic Seiko design that's a classic for a reason. It's legible, toolish, and easy to wear. It's just a pity that the usual Seiko issues of bezel alignment and movement accuracy continue to rear their ugly heads. I'm also conscious that with a retail price of £810, the 317 is hardly cheap. However, it seems that Seiko has realised the value of its history and factored that into the price of these Prospex reinterpretations. But besides those small issues, I think that the 317 is a solid dive watch that makes for a great daily beater. Anyway, that's it from 12 and 60. Thank you once again to Francis and Gaye for loaning the watch to us. You can purchase the 317 from them directly, and they stock a fantastic selection of brands, so please do check them out. Don't forget to let me know what you think of the Turtle reissue down in the comments, like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this review, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers!